Hey, welcome guys to episode number 3 of Stay Winning podcast with me. Today I have Steven Durso, my co-host.
How we doing, guys?
Hey, today we're gonna talk a little bit about mindset, right? We're gonna dig into the mindset area and let's kick it off. So Durso, in your own words, man, what does mindset means to you?
Yeah, so mindset is the conversation that you have internally, right? It's your internal thoughts and how you message things that you have going on in your life, right? And so, really, the objective is what type of barriers are you putting up? Are they permissive barriers? Are they restrictive barriers? And then, if you are putting restrictive barriers in your mindset, right? How are you going to overcome those barriers? And that's what we're really focused on today: is how to breach and overcome those barriers.
100%, man. I like that. I like how you mentioned the barriers. Like in my words, your mindset is your beliefs, right? Your attitude towards how do you approach the situation and the way you think, right? And a lot has to do with your influences. Like your mindset is influenced by your culture, how you were raised. It's
That's
influenced
right.
by your current circle. So what do you have to tell me about that? Tell me about you growing up. When you grew up, how was your culture? How was your culture influencing your current mindset?
Yeah, so the thing about Italian Americans, right? We are notoriously emotional creatures, right? Everything that we think about, there's always an emotion tied to it. And that is the most dangerous thing that you can think about when you're talking about, military decisions and then decisions made on based off of emotions. Uh, Growing up as a junior leader, that's something I struggled with. It was like, you want to have that emotional separation. So now, now that I'm aware of it, right, as a more senior guy, I know it's existing in my subconscious. So I always have to kind of remove myself to take away the emotions and just make decisions on facts and facts alone. And that's something that's definitely has been huge for me to understand it as I've grown up as a leader.
So when you mention leadership and emotion, right? That's something that we all struggle while growing up as leaders, right?
That's right.
Especially myself, I come from a culture where it's an Hispanic culture. We take shit serious. We take shit too hard. We are driven by
Oh
emotion a
yeah.
lot, right? We're in the mentality of usually getting our anger let take control of the situation. That's something that as a leader you cannot have. You cannot be a leader and letting your emotions control you. You cannot lead on their emotions. So I'm glad you brought that up. The first thing right off, man. That was good. Another I want to talk about my culture. My culture, the Hispanic culture, where I grew up, the mindset was, hey, you grow up and you maybe go to college if you can afford it. If not, you're gonna work in a construction job or find a 9 to 5 job and just do the bare minimum, right? Not a lot of opportunity. So when I grew up, when I got to the military, that's the same mindset that I carry over, and it was like the wrong mindset to have, right?
That's right.
I started in the regular army, and I remember the first day I showed up to my unit, we went for a long run. We went for like a 6 7 mile run, and I remember me struggling, right? And I think that was the only time or the last time I fell out of a run, right? Because I was surrounded by those types of individuals, and they continue to push me to be like to higher levels. I started in the regular army, and then I continued to Ranger Regiment, and I started surrounding myself with those kinds of individuals, and that's how my mindset was growing. So it definitely has an influence by your circle.
It does. It does. And also the way you look at it, it's kind of, if you outgrow your circle, that's a problem there. So you always have to continue to grow your circle and have people that you aspire to be. And I think that's what drove you to kind of go from 82nd to Ranger Regiment to Special Forces. It's a
You
continual growth.
you have to like when you so I learned this about mindset. You have the fixed mindset or the growth mindset. There's people that are on the fixed mindset. You can't change those people. Usually, like for example, in our culture, like the older individuals, the people that grew up, is there's a point in your life where your mindset is not going to change, right? But when you're young enough and you start surrounding yourself with different individuals, your mindset is going to change. It's gonna be influenced by by those people,
Right.
and that's exactly how you mentioned. So I started in the regular army. We got to a certain level of let's talk about fitness. We took it to one level, and then when I transitioned to Ranger Regiment, it was a completely new level. And then I went to a Special Forces selection, and it was a completely new animal, right? And then we went to different schools, and it continued to develop. And not only the physical part, but you start understanding what you're actually capable of.
Yeah.
What was can you tell me an experience where you were in the process of building your mindset, or you like unlocked a level of new of mindset?
Well, so for me, right, I'll talk about my ultra marathons and kind of what that transformation was like. Well, initially, my first ultra marathon was the JFK 50 miler. Okay, and I was on an advising mission in Ukraine, and I realized that this was an event that was happening as soon as I got back from that mission. Well, I would basically go out, after work and get some long runs in the Ukraine countryside after we were done advising some of the guys. And that was just something that I realized, like preparing the mindset for something like that. But I really didn't run more than a marathon before I ran a 50 miler. When I ran that first 50 miler, I was like, holy shit, like I did it. It was, it was an experience in itself, but that was really the birth of my ultra marathon races. So one thing I was working on recently, this year, actually starting in January, was to increase the distance. So initially I'd only run a 50 miler, but this year I decided I'm going to work more diligently on ultra marathons. And so in February I ran my first 100 miler, and that unlocked the next level. And so then my commitment was every month I'm going to, at a minimum, run a 50K or a 30 miler. And what that does is it's doing two things. One, it's getting the miles done, which is important, but then it's building that resiliency and building that consistency. And what it comes down to is really unleashing the fact that, look, this is your goal, this is your mission, and how committed are you? So it's looking at the nutrition, it's looking at the fitness, it's looking at the mindset, right? Because when it comes to ultra distances, nutrition and fitness is only going to get you so far. But what helps you get across that finish line is the mindset. Understanding that you can't put a restriction on yourself and on your mindset. And you can have the best fitness, the best nutrition, but if you don't have the mindset, you're not going to finish that race. And so that's really what I was able to unlock when it comes to ultra running.
So when you mentioned that Italians are really driven by emotion, right? And you unlocked like the JFK 50 miler.
That's right.
Now that when you decided that you were going to transition and do a 100 miler, what was your feelings? What was your thoughts? What was going behind your head? Hey, do you have any self doubt?
So funny you mention that. I will never forget this, right? I was on mile 80 feeling like shit. I was checking in with some family members, and I actually checked in with my dad once, right? And he was like, "Hey, you did 80 miles. That's good enough, right? You can stop, can't you?" And I said, "No, Dad, that's not the point. We have to finish the race, right?" So unfortunately, right, that Italian mindset can be derogative sometimes, right? The emotions can set you back, and it can set a limiting belief or a limiting factor. So I'll never forget that. Now, obviously, I finished the race and I told my dad, and he was proud of me. But that is the danger of emotions. Emotions can prevent you from accomplishing your goal and accomplishing your objectives. And that's one thing. There's a fine line between emotions and then mission accomplishment. And the way I look at it is you got to cut emotions out to reach the objective.
So and you go back to the mindset, right?
Yeah,
80 miles will be enough for somebody else.
that's
But when
right.
you have a level of discipline, when you have a level of commitment, and you're just like, that is not enough. I came here for the 100 miles. I'm going to leave with 100 miles.
That's right.
And that's something you mentioned. It's like you told your dad, is that I have to finish.
Yeah.
And
There's no question to it. And you know, my dad's not an athlete. He's a businessman. He's an expert in his field. But when it comes to like mindset and business, right there's a fine line between the two. And you know, I had a very clear definition of success. Success for that event was finishing 100 miles, and that was a clear definition. So you can't let outside people, even your own father, influence your decision. If you are committed and focused on reaching an objective, you know, that's the objective you have to reach.
it's the way you approach things. And then you mentioned
Right.
it's like I'm not your dad was not an athlete. And to be honest, I don't think anyone starts as an athlete. I think
No.
genetics has to do a lot with it too. But there's a lot of people that are not natural born athletes, and they pull through their the stuff they're going through, right?
Yeah.
I can identify with that. I can elaborate on that. When I joined the military at 17, I remember when I was in the in-process building in Bragg, and I saw a Green Beret coming out with all his badges. He was like tall, he was jacked, he got Ranger tab, Sapper tab, Special Forces, Combat Diver. And the first thing when I saw him, I wouldn't even I wouldn't even look him at the eye because I was 17, not like 160 pounds, 5'7". I was like, dude, I'll never be like this guy.
Right.
And I think that stuck with me for a while. That stuck with me, that limiting belief. And for the first couple of years in the military, even though I was accomplished in Ranger school, I went to Ranger Regiment, and it wasn't until after my time in Ranger Regiment that I told myself, I was like, okay, if I've been through all of this, I can definitely accomplish that. That shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
And there was a limiting mindset. It was the language barrier. It was the physical part. And like you mentioned, I was not an athlete, but the process, the years of training, like took me to the level where I felt confident that I was gonna make it.
That's
When I
right.
went to Special Forces selection, I was pretty confident that I was going to make it. I'm not gonna lie, and I carry that mentality throughout the training. I carry that mentality even when I went to dive school. Uh, when I went to dive school, I went with the mentality to the pre-dive that I've been through so much that I'm gonna make it. So I'm not gonna train in the water. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I told all my friends that they were suggesting me that I should go to the pool and start practicing the events. And my response was, I grew up swimming. I'll be okay. And that was not the case. I was not okay. I was failing miserably during pre-dive. But I went with one mentality. Hey, I came here with a mission, and I'm not gonna leave until it's accomplished. There's only one way of leaving. Is either you're gonna kick me out, or I'm gonna drown in this pool. Should I have prepared before going? Absolutely. But when you go with the mindset that you're only going to accomplish, you going on a mission, that changes the way that you approach things. And that's the same. It's not only in the military; it's for the guys transitioning out of the military. It's the same thing. Whether you're opening a business, whether you're trying to find a high-paying job, you have to go with that mindset that you're going to get it, no matter what. The years of training that you've been through, the past experiences are going to lead you to accomplish what you started. But you have to have the mindset of having that clear goal. It's like, hey, I'm going exactly for this, and only giving yourself one way out.
And it's being clear and intentional with yourself. Like you give yourself the objective. People will always try to make the limiting belief, to amplify the limiting belief that you might have. But it's up to you to overcome that limiting belief, because limiting beliefs are everywhere. They're internal, they're external with other people, right? It's where you grew up, it's where your background came from. But if you believe in yourself, and you know that, look, it might not be perfect, but I can accomplish this goal, that's where resiliency starts. And that's what we're really trying to, you know, come describe in this, both these scenarios here, when it's either ultra marathoning or being a combat diver, right? It's believing in yourself. But besides everybody else's limiting beliefs on you, you have to believe in yourself first, and
And
do the right training and have the right mindset. But that's the equation for success.
yeah, it's like carry the same mindset in everything you do,
That's
whether it's
right.
training, whether it's relationships, whether it's financially, whether it's professionalism. Like, if you carry that same mindset that, let's say, for an example, that a guy that's transitioning out of the military, that he's been through years of training, many deployments, many military schools, you have to carry the same mindset that you have during the training, during the deployments, during your squad leader time, team leader time, whatever
Right.
you've been through, to the same civilian world, and apply it to all areas in life, whether it's your new position, right? If you're going for a new job, it's, hey, I'm gonna be the best at this job, and it's the way you think, the way you approach things.
That's right. What that sounds like to me, it's consistency. How consistent are you, whether it comes to a personal objective, business objective, mindset objective? You have to build that consistency, and it's a chore, it's a daily task, and you have to check in with yourself. Even if you're only accomplishing a task 80% daily versus 0%, 80% is better than not doing it at all. And that's something that really helped me be more consistent, especially this year, right? This year is one of my most consistent years personally. And, is every day perfect? Fuck no, it's not. But I'm consistent, right? I might understand what my daily tasks are. Do I accomplish them at the same time every day? No, but it's that consistency that's driving me through. I know what my daily tasks are. I know what defines success for me daily, and accomplishing those items, right? That's where you have that breakthrough of defining consistency and building that mental mindset.
So when you talk about the breakthrough and the consistency part, let's take it back to your ultra marathon, your 100 miles. I never done 100 miles, but
Yeah,
I want to talk to you about that. So
sure.
you were at mile 80 and you had that barrier. Say,
Right.
I heard it, I not only from you, but I heard from different people, like around mile 70, you hit that barrier and you have to break through that barrier. What are some things that helped you? Because you were by yourself, I imagine. By
I
that
was.
mile 80, you were probably by yourself. You're not going with a team. You're not going by yourself. You're only by yourself. So, what are some things that you kept telling yourself? What are some things that you did in order to break through that barrier?
Right. So first, I'll give a shout out here. So I was able to meet one of my legends on the course leading up to mile 80. His name is Andrew Glaze, and this guy has run consistently 100 miles for over 4 years. He's, I think, on week 210, something like that. But I was able to talk to him for about 10, 15 miles. We ran together, and I was picking his brain at the time. And, that's the really cool thing about ultra running is you run into individuals like that, and their mindsets are so refined and defined. And he's a firefighter on his day job. He runs ultra marathons daily as his objective. Just seeing your circle and seeing the people that are in your circle and in your domain, that's one thing, and that's what was going on internally. But externally, what really drove me for that particular race in February, that was right before my daughter was born. And my whole why statement as to why I was running that marathon, or ultra marathon rather, 100 miler, was to set the example, right? To set the example not only for the communities that I'm in, whether it's Conquer Academy or, folks following my fitness journey, things like that, but that's going to be something I'll take great pride in talking to my daughter. Hey, her name is Gabriella. A couple of weeks before you were born, this is something I did, and my why statement is to set the example for my family, my friends, and my peers. And I had so many great positive conversations after that race was run. But before that race was finished, I knew I had to finish it. I could not come short. And I knew even if it was mile 92, they said, hey, dude, you have less than an hour to finish those last 8 miles. I was already smoked mentally, physically, and I had less than an hour to finish those. And I said, look, this is it. This is where that rubber's going to meet the road. And now it's just, there's nothing to it but to execute. And I did it, right? There were a couple of folks left on the course, and we fired each other up. We kept each other going. I had no music. Everything was internally up here.
Yeah,
And
by
I
that
knew
point,
I
man,
wanted to finish and again, to set the example for my family, my friends, and my peers. And that was the biggest thing. That's what drove me to
And
finish.
I like how you mentioned that, set the example in the family part, right? Because I went through the same stuff when I went through special forces selection. I mentioned that I was pretty confident I was going to make it, but I still had my barriers that I had to break through. I still had to meet the physical standards. I still had to go through the same obstacles. And that was one of the things during the long movements that I told myself. I was struggling. I was sucking like everybody else. And that's the same thought that I had on my head. Is no matter what, I'm going to finish this course or this selection, regardless of the outcome. And one of the thoughts that I had, it was my son and it was my family. And that was the whole time. And then I think during the last miles where you really struggling, that was what helped me get through those, right?
Right.
Another time that I had to break through some mindset issues was transitioning out of the military. Right. And just like you mentioned, you had that mentor during that race. I had a mentor. I had Jeremiah Sullivan, my former commander during regiment. He helped me during the transition.
That's right.
I'm not gonna lie, I was afraid. Like, I was scared. For the last 13 years, I'd only been in the United States in the military, in special operations and in the army. So when I transitioned, I was asking myself, what am I gonna do now?
Yeah.
So I got a hold of him and I told him, it's like, bro, I am lost. I need help. It's like, the first thing he told me is, relax.
That's it.
You already been through all of this, and that's how your circle influences you and changing your mindset, changing your beliefs. Because if I would have got out of the military and went back to my old circle, I would have probably be working a regular job and being just a regular guy. And that's something that I was afraid of, being just a regular person when I transitioned out of the military.
And that's huge. That's huge. So personally, me, I've known Jeremiah since 2017. We met at Fort Benning in Captain's Career Course, and I've been honored and fortunate enough to help him plan all the events and some of the internal projects in Conquer Academy. And really, it's because of that community and that circle that we've grown together, and with all the students, staff, right? That's why your circle is so important, and it's a privilege to be in that family, but it's a circle, right? And it's the people that you're with.
It's that feeling of letting people down, letting your circle down, right? It's just like when you were telling yourself, hey, I don't want to let my family down. It's the same thing with your circle and the people you start working with. If you make a wrong decision, it's not only going to affect you, it's going to affect the whole team. So that's why it's so important to have a circle that's going to help you build your mindset.
That's right.
Push you to be better. So what are some things that you will tell the old you or someone that's going through the same issues on how to build their mindset?
Man, if I could tell my old self, right, don't be a bitch, right? And it's funny to say that, but it's true. Those internal thoughts, it's self-limiting thoughts, right? There were opportunities where it's all the mindset. It's just put the hard work in. Don't be a bitch. Don't lie to yourself, right? Don't lie to yourself. Hey, you've done the work. Have you though? Have you actually done the work, or are you only saying that you've done the work? Because I think, my younger self in college as a young lieutenant, I still was successful, defining success, right? There's always more work to do. And that's something that the younger version of myself, lieutenant version of myself, did not realize. There's always more work that you can do. Don't settle on the basics. Don't settle on the standard. Blow through the standard. Exceed the standard. That's huge. If I could tell my old self that.
I like that. And for me, for the stuff that I will tell, I have a lot of people that a lot of the Hispanic community that want to go to special operations, and they always reach out and ask me, what should I do? What should I do for training? My biggest advice is, hey, whatever you're thinking about doing, just go do it. Go do it. Put yourself in that uncomfortable situation. I'm not saying skip the training part. I'm not saying skip the getting prepared. But instead of asking what shall I do or when I'll be ready, instead of asking those questions, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and throw yourself in that uncomfortable situation and go with the mentality that you're not going to quit.
Be
You,
comfortable being uncomfortable. That's
if
the biggest thing.
if
That's
you
the
failed the first time, you're gonna get it the second time. The second time is gonna be way easier. And if you didn't prepare enough, right, you're gonna know. And that second time might not come. So that's why the importance of like being prepared. And
yeah.
being prepared doesn't mean that you have to be in the best physical shape ever. Yeah, you should attempt to do that, but you don't need to wait until 10 years down the road where you have developed to go accomplish those things. You can expedite your success by going straight through it and learning from your mistakes. If you fail, you learn from it, you go again. And that's not going to count as a failure because you only fail if you quit.
That's
If
right.
not, hey, you still got it. It doesn't matter how many times you recycle. If you went through Ranger school and you got your Ranger tab, you still Ranger tab. So you got the extra training, so you're you're a better Ranger, I guess.
You at least showed up, right?
Yeah.
If some people don't show up, I failed Ranger School, right? I don't have my tab, right? But I at least showed up the first time. I wish I had it. I wish I had the mindset I had now, but the thing
Yeah.
is, like, people don't even show up half the times, and that's the thing is like, even if you are not successful, pull those lessons out. You take those failures and fail forward, and that's something I hate failing, but I failed a fuckload
Yeah.
in my life. But I'm learning every day, and I apply those lessons to where I'm at, and I keep grinding, and every day be 1% better every day. That's what I always say to myself.
Dude, and I think that's the importance of having that growth mindset.
That's
It's
right.
like being able to take criticism, being able to fail, being able to go with the mentality say, no matter what, I'm going to improve. If I fail or if I make it, it doesn't matter. The point is that I did it, I attempted it, and I did everything I could to accomplish it. If you go with the mentality, you have the growth mindset, you're going to be fine. You're going to accomplish what you started. But when you have the fixed mindset, that's when, hey man, there's no help for you.
That's when
And
motherfuckers don't even show up when they have the fixed mindset. They know they're not going to be successful, so they're not even going to fucking try. That's the thing about fixed versus growth mindset.
and that sucks because you can tell like when people transition out of the military, like most of the people that are struggling as well are the people that had the fixed mindset when we were in the military. So if you were to just switch your mindset, if you were to just change your circle, if you start doing like instead of like wasting all this time, throw yourself into the uncomfortable situation, you would have fucking crushed it as well. So that's the biggest fucking thing. Be able to fucking learn, be able to be willing to fail and be willing to be uncomfortable. If you're willing to be uncomfortable, you're in the right spot. One last thing I want to say, one of my friends, he told me the other day, right? He was in the business, into business, and I called him for some advice, and I think one of the things he told me was, if what you're currently doing doesn't make you want to quit, you're not doing enough.
I
So
like
I was
that.
like, fuck. Okay, well, I guess I guess we were in the right path. So, well, that's it for today, guys. I appreciate you guys' time. If you guys can like and share this message, if you know someone that's struggling with a mindset, limiting beliefs, share this message with them so we can get to them. Hey, bro, I appreciate your time, brother.
Hey, you too, man. Have a good one.
Hey, you too.